After a lot of prayer, some of them were taken to court. And for 1 year, the judge warned, if you are not ready to prosecute, I'm going to strike out this charge. And that was what happened at the end of the day. One of the people involved now wants to be the governor of my state. After he had been admitted that he collected $5 million.
The pardon, the issue of
Yes.
the international image, for instance, the officials in the UK, we know that this man has a case to answer in the UK. Now, what does it say of our relationships?
No, in the UK where there is rule of law, and the position like the late Lord Denny put it, Alfred Denny, is be you so high, the law is above you. In Nigeria, the contrary, the reverse is the case. Be you so high, you are higher than the law. And that is why we are having a crisis of the rule of law in our country. In the UK 2 years ago, some legislators were indicted and sanctioned for some claims, false claims of as little as £1,000. A most powerful chief of staff in Brazil, the chief of staff to President Lula, very popular president, José Disseu, has been jailed 11 years, sentenced to 11 years imprisonment for electoral fraud. Right now, President Arroyo of Philippines, former President Arroyo of Philippines, is standing trial for electoral fraud. Of course, you know about Berlusconi in Italy, who has been jailed and has been fined 1.6 billion.
Well, Mr. Falana, what's the difference? Because now the difference, what's the difference between those crimes and what we have here in Nigeria?
Here, there is no rule of law.
Because even in other, because the Ropa Band, that's also within the continent, that's Africa.
Every big man here is higher than the law. That is the point I'm making. Right now, just last week,
then who makes
Madame Christine Lagarde, the IMF chief, was summoned to France by the police to answer questions on fraud. If it were here, to ask in Nigeria would be an international appointment to come home and answer queries, it's impossible. Her predecessor, of course, you know about Dominic Strauss-Kahn, was brought down from a plane, handcuffed, and taken to detention for messing up a Guinean, an African.
Can't someone hold this way you describe as big men to account?
Here, the criminal justice system has been hijacked by the rich, aided by senior lawyers. And I say this.
I'm happy you said that.
Oh, yes. I tell my colleagues, we're in trouble.
The judiciary has a hand in all
We're in trouble. Senior lawyers, we make money to the detriment of law and order in our society. Now we're all in trouble. You can't enjoy your wealth now, even if you are the richest man. And that is how to pay for it. So when you are talking, you have to situate pardon, granted the convicts, in this whole atmosphere.
Exactly. I was just about to say that what you have done is situate the pardon within, the atmosphere. But the prerogative of mercy remains a prerogative.
Yes.
It means that the president can give whosoever he pleases as long as he follows due process.
Under the law. But due process? No,
the Constitution.
Let's go to due process this time. No, let's go to
the Constitution, because one of the things that we heard was that the Council of State was involved. I mean, it was presented at the Council of State, and it was approved, and the president appended his signature.
If you are talking about the due process, and you want to go by the evidence oozing out of the villa when the decision was taken, you may run into problems.
Why?
I thought we were putting this whole controversy behind us. There were speculations that this decision had been taken. The spokesperson for the meeting of that council, the governor of Adamawa State, Admiral Murtala Nyako, denied absolutely that the decision was taken. It took the government about 24 hours to admit that the decision was taken. And through your forum, the Channels Television, Dr. Okwe told the whole world that it was the National Council of State that took the decision with profound respect. That is in conflict with Section 175 of the Constitution, which has vested the president exclusively with the powers to grant pardon after consulting with the Council of State. It's not supposed to be the decision of the Council of State.
Exactly. So the Council of State was consulted with.
Yeah. Now, if the Council of State was consulted and this decision was taken, legally, there will be no problem. But I think people are raising moral issue that in exercising your discretion, it must be done within certain parameters, including morality. If somebody was jailed by the High Court, confirmed by the Court of Appeal, confirmed by the Supreme Court, for sexually assaulting 4 boys, and is granted pardon, those who believe in preserving the morality of a society might question that.
What then would be mercy?
Those who believe that the country is waging a war against corruption, those who believe erroneously or naively that, oh, we are fighting corruption, may genuinely challenge pardon granted to those who have been convicted for corruption.
I really wanted us to move on and see you still within.
But let me tell you the most serious one.
What's that?
I've just come across. The most serious one is that 197 Nigerians between 2005 and 2006 in the Lagos area alone were convicted and jailed without any option of fine for drug-related offenses, including drug barons. None of them was ever found in any prison in Nigeria.
Well, I think
none of them.
in other words, perhaps maybe do we now have a suspended sentence?
No,
and they were not.
They have gone.
They've gone.
They went back to their business.
They were not
nefarious trade.
Okay.
Well, that's a big.
But that's another type of pardon.
Honestly,
which was never announced to anybody.
Well, anyway,
so
really,
I'm just talking of a system that has collapsed.
I think this very one you just raised is something that we'll definitely take you up on. But again, because we're looking at a potpourri of so many other issues, let's talk about the other one still within the judiciary. Okah's sentencing in South Africa. And, you know, a whole lot has been happening. All through the week we were on this particular matter, to the extent that lawyers were actually coming up with divergent views and opinions concerning this particular sentencing. What's the difference between what we saw in South Africa and what would have happened here in the country, in Nigeria?
Well, in the first place, I defended Henry Okah when he was charged in Jos. It was a trial in camera. For that reason, I have been very reluctant to express an opinion on the matter. For me, it's a very sad development. Having regard to what this guy did or the role he played. Because I've also read some statements in the last few days where some people are claiming credit for the restoration of law and order in the Niger Delta. Whatever might have happened in South Africa, it was this guy that we used, that the Yaradua regime, and the records are there. It was this guy that facilitated, it was his case, that facilitated the amnesty.
The same.
Oh yes.
Henry Okah.
Oh yeah, I defended him.
Even though he never accepted it.
No, he did. It was unlike South Africa, where he was arraigned on a 13-count charge. What he had here was a 62-count charge. But the system played into his hands. The system played into his hands. Following the ruling of the court in Kaduna, the Court of Appeal, that Chief James Ibori could not be tried there. That he had to be taken to his state.
So that precedent.
We use that precedent to say you must take Henry Okah to Yenogua, because what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
Why did you think that was an advantage? I mean, justice can be granted anywhere. And
well, unfortunately, That was the decision of the court, binding on all of us, including the jail. And of course, the government refused.